My name is Rafi Segal. I'm an associate professor of architecture and urbanism here at MIT. I am part of the Department of Architecture, and I work on both scales, on the architecture and on the urban scale, on a variety of projects affiliated with the Center of Advanced Urbanism, but also independent projects, research projects. My main focus looks at the peripheries of our cities and begins to ask how can these suburbs, ex-urban areas, transform into new forms of urbanity. Basically how these could be more self-sufficient, less wasteful, more productive, and most importantly, how could they create a sense of community. What I've termed these areas outside our cities, I've termed a potential of becoming a dispersed city, or being looked at and developed as a form of urbanism rather than suburbs or areas outside the city. So the premise is that the digital age and our current technologies don't necessarily replace the need for physical contact between people, but the contrary. They enhance our desire for sociability. So we talk about, on the one hand, the global economic structure leading to a dispersed kind of environment, or allowing the economy to happen within dispersal. But the other hand, there is, at the same time, in parallel, there's still a desire or reliance on notions of centrality. One of the ideas is to understand how we can capture or translate certain notions, contemporary notions of sharing and community, and changing habits of how we live and work, into different ways of living, basically, or different forms of habitat. So one model we're looking at, for example, is a kibbutz, which is a collective settlement type that was developed in Israel in the early 20th century. And we're looking at that as a kind of settlement which combines individual life and collective, and a strong kind of emphasis on collective life. Meaning there are certain amenities, activities, programs that the community shares. Also, it's a settlement form that incorporates production, agriculture, and other kind of community activities into one. So if we can learn from that model, for example, how programs operate, but also how the physical environment is shaped in relation to the landscape, in relation to public programs, then we potentially have a very interesting model that can be possibly implemented in other contexts, whether in Asia, whether in North America, whether in Europe, for a different kind of idea or form of a community. So in a way, it's a very broad field, but what I am interested in, how the urban scale and the architectural scale can kind of be combined or kind of meet to create that sense of community on that scale. So primarily a settlement of maybe 600, 1,000, 2,000 people. It can be considered even a neighborhood in a certain urban context.